We've had this camper for about a year now, and we're very happy with it. It's a 2020 model, but we made sure that it was actually built in 2019. We checked the papers, and the reason for that is there were a lot of complaints online about units that were built early in the pandemic with staffing issues and supply chain issues. There were concerns about build quality. So this is actually built in 2019. Within the first few days of owning this bottom piece of the bunk bed actually broke, which was a blessing because I was able to sort of investigate. I decided to see what they were made out of, and I realized that they were held together completely by staples. So I removed the two mattresses, removed the plywood, and then put some additional bracing on all the structure, and everything that was held in with staples, I replaced it with screws. So now they're much more rigid, much more solid. I feel confident that my children aren't going to collapse onto each other. So yeah, definitely something to consider. Even these benches here and the main bed underneath, we added some extra screws where they used to just only have staples. The very first thing we did when we bought this unit was we opened up all the little access panels. There's another one in there by the toilet that goes under the shower, of course, in the cabinets. We even took this side wall off here so we could gain access to anywhere where insects and mice could come in. We did the same thing under the benches, under the beds, anywhere where we could see light. We turned all the lights off in the camper during the day to see if we could see light infiltrating, and that's how we knew there were gaps. So we put steel wool, caulking, expanding foam. Some cases, to pass plumbing pipes or electrical, even the size of my finger, they'd cut a hole like the size of a cantaloupe just to pass cabling through. So we had to block that up with pieces of wood as well. So we got creative, but the idea was to block every possible entry point for mice in particular. We did the same thing under the beds. Like I said, we saw little gaps where insects could climb in, and we put caulking on those. We also did the opposite, where we turned all the lights on inside the camper at night, and I laid down underneath the camper and inspected the perimeter looking for any gaps where light was shining out. So those are good little tricks and methods to be able to see where there's gaps. This large window here didn't really have a good way of holding up the blinds, so we added these. Pardon the light here. Let's see if I could get it better. So we added these little bread clips. They're sort of from the dollar store. You could get them in different colors. We got a pack of 2 or 4, something like that. So all you have to do is just pinch it, and it holds on, and it keeps these blinds elevated. Before we bought this unit, we had a pop-up camper, and 2 things we noticed right away. There's never enough storage, especially when it comes to shoes. So of course we laid down a carpet here, but we did notice too that the floor would get spongy after time. Even if you do everything to keep it dry, just the quality of the wood they use, and you're always coming in this door stepping in the exact same spot. So underneath this carpet we put a piece of plywood just to distribute the weight and try to make sure that doesn't happen. Of course, as for storage here, we did something very simple. We just added one of these sort of cargo nets. So it's just attached with some washers and screws here. So you have a place to put some of the lighter shoes like these Crocs. And then we added 2 drawers down here. So these are the kind of drawers that you get on these particular type of towers here. Here you go. We got these because they look a little nicer than the basic white ones. We just wanted things to match a bit. And we noticed like under here, this entire area, of course, is storage, but it's really difficult to get to. You have to take the cushions off, take the bottom of the bench off to access. So we cut into it and added 2 of these drawers. I'll show you what it looks like from the inside. Here we have the bottom of the bench. I'm taking the wood off, you can see. So we just used the framing of the actual shelving unit and put that in here. And there's still storage. You can see we have a water jug there. Sometimes we'll put some stuff in here. So it's a better use of the space from this angle. We have some extra drawers to put a few pairs of shoes. And here's what the drawers look like from the other side. So you have plenty of room for a few pairs of shoes. We put some caulking around here. It's very sandy right now. We just got back from a trip. I did a terrible job on the caulking. I am not a caulksmith, but I did my best to try to make it look a little cleaner and fill those gaps. While I have the bench open here, I'll just show an example of the staples they used. You can see right here in the corner. They just stuck everything together with these large staples. Same thing for the bunk beds, which really didn't instill confidence. On the bunk beds, we added some bracing. We framed the whole thing up a little more rigid. You can see here we've added screws to try to make it a bit stronger. The bench used to flex quite a bit. Once we've added those screws, it's strong enough. We didn't add any additional bracing because it would block access, and it seems to be adequate. But for the bunk beds, we definitely added some framing to the whole thing. In both bunk areas, we installed these little storage units. They come from Wish, very inexpensive. They got different colors, many pockets. There's a place for a Kleenex box. You can put your phone, water bottle, things like that. And over here we also installed a folding collapsible water bottle holder, cup holder, very handy. Of course, this dinette can turn into a bed, and when it's in bed form, there's no storage for the person sleeping there, so we added another folding cup holder right there. And there's a USB charging 2 ports over here. What my wife's working on are these little crocheted pockets where you can put your phone or tablet and hang those up. Same thing for the bunks. Everyone uses these outlets, and then everyone has wires everywhere, so we just wanted to tidy that up. We'll show that in the future, but my wife's been working on those, trying to make them matching the color scheme, and just a fun project for her. We do a lot of off-grid camping without hookups, so we bought a lithium battery. It lasts a lot longer. You could drain it fully without damaging it, so you get a lot more use out of it. And with that, we got this Renogy, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, Renogy. It's a battery monitor, and you can see the percentage remaining, amp hours, all the different data. It also came with an app, so you can see a lot of these things on your phone, even the temperature of the battery if it's overheating. And we installed that right here under the panel near the front entrance where it's nice and convenient. You can see I did a poor job cutting. I'm going to go with a Sharpie, a gray Sharpie, and just sort of color this in. I nicked it when I was using the saw. So anyway, just learning as I go. Something we didn't really love are these overhead cabinets. They're really great for storage, but as you can see, they don't stay up on their own. Another great example of the wonderful build quality is how crooked this handle is. Not worth fixing or anything, but just an annoyance. But yeah, so we thought about getting little rams to hold this up. I've dealt with those before. They're really a pain, and there's really not a lot of, wood or real estate back there on the sides to attach it to. I looked into hinges that are rigid or stiff, and they sort of hold their position. I even considered putting magnets and trying to have something on the ceiling, but I'll show you the solution I came up with. We installed on the ceiling here, you see the handle, it meets up with this area here where we put a little spacer, a block, and this piece of plastic, it's sort of a clip, and they twist, and it actually grips the handle. I don't know if you can get a good picture of it here in the lighting that I have, but you get the idea. So this rotates around, and then it comes back down. So you can even do it one-handed. It's pretty easy. And to make sure the screws didn't protrude too deeply into the ceiling, I looked at over here, here we are, the smoke detector, and I took those screws out. I measured them so I knew how deep I can go into the ceiling without causing damage, and I made sure that these screws didn't go any deeper than that. Inside the cabinet here, there's a false wall. You can see it's very flexible, and that's to access all the wiring behind here. And you might be able to see there's a hole here. There it is. For some reason, this panel was pushed out so much and on an angle. It took this entire area here, and we lost a lot of space. So of course, I just moved it a little tighter, screwed it in. It's still flimsy. Obviously, we don't put heavy things in here. This is just temporary. We usually put towels and stuff, so it's not going to cause any damage. Underneath the kitchen cabinets here, the bottom area is all utility. There's a pump, the water tank, and they had another wood shield under here, just like I showed earlier on the upper cabinet, and the same thing in the bathroom. And I think the idea is they don't want people storing things down there because it's going to cause some damage. But it's a pain when you want to access this. You have to unscrew it and remove it. So we just removed it permanently. And I will say it does give a little extra storage. During trips when we're stationary, we'll put some lighter, towels and smaller items under there. In the bathroom cabinet, as I mentioned earlier, there was a shield blocking that whole bottom shelf. You couldn't access it, but we found a container, this black container, that fit precisely in the hole that was there. We were very lucky. So nothing can move around and damage anything. There are some plumbing and wires down in the rear, but it doesn't move, so we're able to use that all the time. We got a lot of extra storage now. The bathroom sink and counter space is very small. We didn't want clutter everywhere, so we put everything in the medicine cabinet, and we got all of these little units to hold things in place so they don't jostle around while we travel. We put some of the larger items up here, and it works really well. There was no toilet paper holder, so we found this type of holder right here, installed it vertically instead of horizontally, and there's a little area here which is perfect, so it's out of the way. You don't bump into it, but it's still accessible when you need it. Of course, we've added many 3M command hooks. There were people online saying don't do that. This is sort of a veneer, it could come off. We haven't had issues. We're just putting towels, nothing very heavy. We have these over the door hooks here on the bathroom door. They're very handy as well. And of course in the bathroom, a few items here. We've added a couple hooks here, of course. And this was a great idea I found online. This is the vent in the rear. We put some hooks up inside the vent cavity here, so you can hang wet bathing suits and things like that. And of course, they drip down into the shower rather than inside your camper. Underneath the bunk beds here, we have a nice storage area, and they wanted to protect the plumbing that's back there. There's an outdoor shower, so they put a false wall, and it was quite a bit more forward than what you see here, and it was very flimsy, and it was the entire thing. I don't think it was all the way up, but you couldn't put things on top of it. It didn't have a top. So it's just a flimsy piece of very thin wood back there. So I removed that and I built a box over the plumbing area. So this has a top to it, so you can actually put some lighter items and store them up here. And because I pushed the whole thing back, you could fit longer items like this screen tent we have. So it actually fits. It wouldn't have fit with the stock setup. Another one of the first mods we did was add these covers to the two vents. We have a vent here in the main area and one inside the bathroom, and neither one of them had the outside cover, so you couldn't leave them open in the rain, which was really unfortunate. A lot of people online I've seen complaining that newer units don't come with these. Should be mandatory stock. You can get different variations, but we just got a basic white cover. There's no need to drill into the ceiling or anything. They install pretty easy and they're not that expensive. It's just sort of a pain that they don't come with it. Of course, we have these storage bins. The TV is taken down right now, but that fits up here. And then we added just these little pocket things. I think this came from IKEA. So when the bed is folded down, there's a place to hang your, put your cell phone and things like that. You can never really have enough storage. That's something we've learned. The kitchen area has a very nice big sink, which is great, but there was no prep area. We don't do much cooking in here. We do most of our cooking outside, but occasionally you want to prepare a sandwich or something in the rain. It's nice to have a counter space. And usually the kids are on the table, or even this is converted to a bed. So the 2-burner stove here, it works. We've used it once or twice just to try it, but we decided to get a cover, and they sell very expensive covers specifically for this. We decided to make our own. So this is a cutting board, and then we have these door stops. They're not the boingy kind. They're just rigid, and they came with 3M circles, discs, double-sided tape. So you can see it fits pretty precise, like from here, here. We've traveled with this in place. It doesn't generally move. Sometimes you might hit a bump and it'll sort of jostle a little bit, but it's never fallen down, and it's pretty strong. It gives some extra counter space, and if we need to use the stove, it's removable. It's not a permanent alteration. This wall here, the other side of it is in one of these storage areas in the front compartments, and so it's sort of this big void. And I had this little rectangle here. It was underneath my radio. I had a 1987 Volkswagen Fox. And this was an insert that would come out as a storage piece under the radio. And I hung on to it for all these years. I don't know why. You could see you could fit, half my hand in there. So it's a great place to put your keys or your wallet right by the front door. You could just reach in and put it. So I cut that out, slid that in, and it's working pretty good. So I don't know why I hung on to it, but I guess this is why. Counting the front door, there are 6 windows in here, and we can only really open 3 of them in the rain. The front door and this main window here are covered by the awning in the rain, and normally where we camp it's in the woods, so there's really very little wind and the rain tends to fall straight down. So we're able to open this larger one and the front door. And the third window we can open is here by the main bed, and it sort of bumps outward so that it's sort of shielded from the rain, so that we can open. But this window here and the 2 bunk windows we cannot open. So we're really lacking airflow, especially when it's a hot, rainy evening. There's no real way to get that breeze going through. My MacGyver solution here was to get these bins here from IKEA, cut them in half. So this is actually one bin will create 2 halves, and they nest into each other very conveniently for transport. And what they do is they become awnings, temporary awnings, to put on the exterior of these windows. And I also made one for the half of the kitchen window that opens. This part doesn't open, so this was big enough to cover. So I'll show you what it looks like from the outside, and I'll explain how I stuck them. This is what they look like when they're installed. And around the perimeter on the camper itself, I used a double-sided tape called alien tape. In fact, I bought a knockoff version from Amazon. It seems to work just as well. This is not really properly stuck. I just put it up here to show as a demonstration. But I have some clips I'll show you of how they work. Here it is installed. It's stuck on with the alien tape. It seems to be really solid. I wouldn't drive with them on, obviously, but I could literally shake the entire camper. You see it shaking here. And it's not budging. And I was concerned, especially on the sides here, about the water tightness, but there's excess tape you can kind of see by the inside. So you could just run your finger along it and push it down, and it's almost like a bead of caulking. So it's really watertight from the sides as well. And up here, same idea. There's excess tape, and I was able to run my finger along it and sort of create like a barrier. I just realized you may not hear my voice under there. Anyway, so yeah, it's stuck really, really well. You could see it rained last night. No water got in. It's bone dry underneath. This one here over the kitchen window, still sealed good and completely dry in here. So that's great. We got a lot of rain last night and we can see it's bone dry under there. Good morning, sir. So now we're going to take them down. And again, super dry underneath. And they should just pull right off. There. Perfect. And then I just have to peel this off and it comes off pretty easy. I already did one. The rear storage compartment originally came with a small bar fridge that was placed in here, and this drawer was actually on this side. And you can see how large the drawer is, and there's quite a bit of storage in back here. So what was happening is this drawer was blocking our access, or at least half of it. So we decided to get rid of the fridge. Like I said, we don't usually have electricity where we camp, and it's kind of redundant. We have a fridge inside. So we moved this drawer over. So now we have a lot more access into the back. These are some folding tables that we slide in. There's a bunch of storage back there as well. A few other things here in the rear kitchen area. We added these two big drawers, which give us a lot of storage space. And there's some storage on top where we have our stove. And this is where the refrigerator used to be. And because of that, there's an area where there's electricity. We don't always have electricity, but these USBs do work off of the battery. So we can plug in a phone to charge and stuff like that. But it was very convenient that power was already here. So we added this switch. And when we push that, there's an LED strip, light strip that goes over here. Let's see if I can show you. There you go. So you get a rough idea. This whole area illuminates at night. You can see all the storage we have back there that we couldn't access when this drawer was in its place. It used to be over here, as I mentioned. These tables, of course, we slide out while we're camping. Under here, we also have a magnetic tool holder that I've attached, and you can see some pocket knives stuck there. So, you know, you're always looking for your knife. Boom, it's right there, very handy. I have another one in the front storage area as well. And here we put two plumbing pipes, just cut out some strips, attached them to the wall, and it's a nice storage for the propane canisters so they don't roll around. The inside of the door is just this giant white canvas, and I couldn't resist plastering it with stickers. And I got these on Wish. They're really inexpensive. As you can tell, they don't really stick good on this type of material. But these here, you'll notice, are stuck really well. I did an experiment. I pasted them or painted them with Hodge Podge. It's like a craft glue type thing. So it's been working really good. So eventually I'm going to cover this entire thing with stickers. Here's the solid stance step stabilizer that we installed. And it has telescopic legs here that adjust to multiple sizes. You could even take these pins out and adjust the angle of this so you can have it much steeper or shallow. And you can see when it touches the ground here, it offers a lot of extra stability. You do have to drill your own holes though, which is a little bit of a DIY project for some people, but not very difficult. We store our carpet here on the rear bumper when we're traveling, and we use these giant tie wrap type things. They're sort of like a flexible metal tie wrap thing that you just twist tie. So they're really convenient. The sewage pipe is stored inside the bumper. We got this magnetic clip thing here. So there's a few little magnets on there, and when you push it in, it holds magnetically, which is really, really convenient. That was a little bit expensive. I found it overpriced, but it's useful. This is the valve you pull to drain the freshwater tank. You can see a little bit of residue in there. And I drilled a hole and put a self-tapping screw in there. I did the same thing on the black tank and the gray tank. And what you can do once a year, I'm going to take this out and spray a little lubricant in so that this doesn't jam up. I've heard issues of people having these jam up, and I saw this idea online, and so far it works really great. Here's where the wire comes out for the shore power, and that's a easy way for rodents to get inside. It's a huge hole. So we used to have steel wool stuffed in there, and it would rust and it would leave a little bit of residue. And I found this copper steel wool that works a lot better. Well, same idea, but it doesn't rust. I read a review one time of different bicycle locks, and they said that a galvanized steel chain and a good padlock was probably more reliable than a lot of the aftermarket fancy locks that they sell out there. So that's what I do on my trailers here. This is a bicycle tube. I ran the chain through it to protect it and to protect the rims from getting scratched, and a decent padlock. You can tuck it underneath so it doesn't get rained on. And I do have one on the tongue as well, but this is a good method to wrap it around the chassis or the leaf springs. And it's not currently on the camper right now, the one we have for this, but there's the leaf springs. I just pass it through there, through one of the holes, and then wrap it around. So just an added measure of security and pretty inexpensive. Here near the front storage area we have a solar charge plug, and we installed this Renogy solar charge controller under here, and it's all wired up to the battery that's located in the front, and this wire that comes off the top left here, that goes to the unit inside that has the battery monitor. Here in the front we have our propane tank, and we painted it like a screaming Lego guy. Really like that. I really enjoy going online and watching videos of mods and things like that that people do to their camper, so I decided to make my own video, and I hope you guys found that interesting, and have a great day.